If you ask a question about which empire in history has the weirdest reputation, then every historian will tell the name of the Aztec Empire. Known for its grandeur and complexity, it is infamous for its dark and shocking rituals. From their brutal punishments to bizarre cultural norms, the Aztecs had some of the most terrifying and appalling practices that still leave historians stunned. Today, we're looking into the 9 most disgusting things about the Aztec Empire, exploring the weirdest aspects of their culture, including their love-making customs, punishments, and gruesome mythology. 1. Human sacrifice and cannibalism. Human sacrifice was deeply embedded in the Aztec way of life and considered essential for maintaining cosmic order. The most notorious form of sacrifice involved cutting out the victim's heart while it was still beating. The sacrifice would take place atop one of their massive pyramids, usually during a religious festival, where thousands of onlookers would watch. The sacrificial victim, often a captured enemy warrior, was laid on a stone slab, and a priest would slice open the abdomen with an obsidian blade, reaching in to extract the heart, which was then presented to the gods. Afterward, the body was often dismembered, and in some ceremonies, pieces of flesh were consumed by select members of the elite, a practice known as teoqualo, meaning god-eating. This act was not merely a grotesque spectacle, but was believed to imbue those who ate the flesh with divine power. Archaeological evidence from the Templo Mayor in modern-day Mexico City, which was once the heart of the Aztec capital Tenochtitlan, suggests thousands of individuals were sacrificed here each year. 2. Brutal punishments for crime. The Aztec legal system was swift and brutal. They had no formal prisons, so punishments were often carried out immediately after sentencing. Crimes like theft, adultery, and public drunkenness, for those under 70, were all punishable by death. Theft of sacred items or more than 20 ears of corn, for instance, could lead to immediate execution, either by strangulation, stoning, or being beaten to death. Interestingly, while punishments for commoners were harsh, nobles faced even harsher penalties. Aztec rulers believed that the higher a person's status, the more severely they should be punished for setting a bad example. Lesser crimes could lead to the destruction of one's home or public humiliation, such as having one's head shaved. These measures were designed to maintain a rigid social order, where even the thought of rebellion was deterred by the sheer brutality of Aztec law. 3. Horrific treatment of sacrificial women. Female sacrificial victims met a particularly horrifying fate. In Aztec religious rituals, while male victims were often treated with some respect, such as being gifted wives before their deaths, women were subjected to severe mistreatment. The most shocking practice was seen in rituals involving the mother goddess Tosi. Female sacrifices dedicated to her were brutally raped by rulers before being skinned alive. This ritual flaying wasn't just symbolic, it involved the literal removal of skin, which would then be worn by priests in a twisted reenactment of the goddess's rebirth. The women, regarded as divine offerings, were treated with extreme cruelty, embodying the darker aspects of Aztec beliefs. 4. Chemical burns as punishment for masturbation. The Aztecs imposed severe punishments for sexual misbehavior. Masturbation was seen as a serious transgression, particularly for men, and the punishment was nothing short of sadistic. Offenders had their genitals smeared with ground chili peppers, causing intense burning and excruciating pain. The active ingredient in chili peppers, capsaicin, triggers a burning sensation that can be debilitating. This wasn't just a minor form of punishment, but a deliberate act of humiliation and physical suffering, reflecting the Aztecs' strict moral code regarding sexuality. 5. Sacrificial gladiatorial combat. Perhaps one of the most bizarre spectacles in the Aztec Empire was the sacrificial gladiatorial combat. Captured warriors, usually from enemy tribes, were given a chance to fight for their lives, but this was no fair contest. The captive was armed with a ceremonial weapon, often a wooden club with feathers instead of sharp obsidian. Their opponents, on the other hand, were fully armed Aztec warriors. The result was almost always a slow, brutal death for the captive, who was then sacrificed to the gods anyway. This spectacle was not only a religious ritual, but also served to demonstrate the military prowess of the Aztecs and to intimidate both allies and enemies alike. 6. Love and sexual control in marriage. Aztec marriage customs were heavily regulated, with strict expectations around virginity and fidelity. Both men and women were expected to be virgins upon marriage, but only women were subjected to virginity tests. If a woman was found to not be a virgin, the consequences could be severe, often ending in execution. Adultery was taken just as seriously. Men and women caught engaging in extramarital affairs were both put to death, often in public executions meant to deter others from committing similar crimes. The control over love and marriage extended deeply into Aztec social expectations, with heavy punishments for those who violated these norms. 7. Child sacrifice to appease the gods. Child sacrifice, particularly to the rain god Tlaloc, was a common practice in Aztec culture. Children were often selected based on their beauty and purity, and their sacrifices were believed to ensure good rainfall and bountiful crops. During the ritual, children's tears were seen as a good omen, symbolizing the rain that the Aztecs hoped to summon. These sacrifices were carried out with the belief that the gods demanded such innocent life for the survival of the community. The crying of the children, heartbreaking as it was interpreted as the gods' approval of the sacrifice. 8. Self-mutilation and bloodletting. Bloodletting and self-mutilation were widespread practices among the Aztecs, reflecting their deep commitment to their gods. Priests, warriors, and even commoners would cut themselves to offer blood to the deities. The more blood spilled, the more the gods would be appeased, or so they believed. These acts of self-sacrifice weren't just for religious leaders, they extended to the entire society. Warriors, for example, would cut themselves before battle as an offering for victory. This level of devotion, which involved personal suffering and mutilation, highlights the intensity of the Aztecs' religious beliefs. 9. Punishments for deceit and fraud. The Aztecs had a strict sense of justice, especially when it came to maintaining fairness in trade. Deceit in the marketplace, such as selling stolen goods or manipulating weights and measures, was seen as an unforgivable offense. Punishments ranged from public stoning to death by strangulation. Even small acts of dishonesty were not tolerated, as the Aztecs relied heavily on trade to support their empire. By enforcing such brutal punishments, they kept their economy running smoothly and ensured that their trading partners could trust them. The Aztec Empire was a complex civilization with a rich cultural heritage, but also a dark side filled with violent and grotesque practices. Hope you like this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also check out the left video to explore more.